Have you ever decided to clear out your closet and you yank everything out of the closet and make this great big pile, and then something happens, the kids come to visit or whatever, and you don't get around to finishing the pile. And then day after day, the pile just grows and you don't get around to finishing it. What do you do then? Great question. We're going to talk about it today. Hi there, I'm Angela Brown, and this is Ask a House Cleaner. This is a show where you get to ask a house cleaning question and I get to help you find an answer. Over the last couple of weeks at Savvy Cleaner, we have been talking about purging your closets and your cupboards and your toy boxes and your bonus room and all the stuff that you have in your life that you no longer need, want, or use. And then somebody called into the show and they said, I'm purging, but what happens if you have a big pile and then you don't get back to it? All right, so there is the risk of the big pile. And what happens is this. You go in and you're so super motivated and you say, I'm going to clean out my closet and I'm going to clean out all my drawers. So you yank out all your drawers, all the underwear, all the socks, all the t-shirts. You bring in everything from the closet, all the hanging stuff, the dresses, all the stuff, and you make a great big ginormous pile. We've seen this on TV, and you go through every single piece of item of clothing and you ask the question, does this spark joy? And then you only keep the stuff that brings you joy and you get rid of the rest. So how do you get rid of it? Well, you make piles, and you have a donation pile, and you have a sorting pile that is stuff that you're going to give to your friends. And then you have a toss away because it's just too old. It's got stains on it. Nobody wants it. You're going to throw this away. Then you have a pile that goes to the wash. Then you have a pile that you're going to keep, and maybe a pile that is a size smaller, maybe a size bigger. You're going to grow into it, or you're going to shrink into it, or however, okay? So you got all these different piles. What happens then is once everything is out and about and you start sorting, you might spend 5, 6, 8 hours going through this ginormous pile. And then suddenly the kids come for the weekend and you're like, whoa. So you close the door and you go tend to the family and you say, I'll deal with the pile tomorrow. But then when you go to bed that night, there's this big pile on your bed. So you have to scoop the pile off and you got to put it next to the bed. And so now you have a huge pile on the floor and you have all these smaller piles that are already on the floor. And as you walk in and out of the bedroom day after day, because the kids are still here, and as you tend to that, what happens is you start kicking the piles into each other and they start becoming a bigger pile strewn about. As you go to get dressed every day, the clothes that you once had hanging are no longer hanging. So now you come back through and you're rummaging through the piles. Like, well, I was going to give that away, but I kind of like that. Now that I remember I have it, I think I'll wear it today. And you start digging out of the piles of stuff you were going to get rid of, right? So what happens is now everything has become convoluted and you haven't actually finished the pile. And then you get really tired of the pile after a couple of days or a couple of weeks, because here's the thing, we never had a great big chunk of time to go through the pile. We never did. Life gets in the way. We have work, we have family, we have responsibilities, and all of that other stuff continues. So here's this big pile that never got attended to. What happens is suddenly we say, well, I'm going to get around to this, but I don't have time right now. And we grab everything. We scoop it all back together and we take the great big pile and we put it back in the closet and we close the door and we just hope that, it doesn't explode. Okay, well, the reality is now everything is not hanging. It's not organized. All we've done is a huge disservice because we lost the momentum that we originally started with. That is the risk of the big pile. So how do we get around that? How do we fix this without creating this big pile? The reality is this, we need to segment very small windows of time. Let's say 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, I'm going to walk into that closet and I'm going to pull out one thing. I'm going to pull out all the winter hats. And you say, well, I don't have very many winter hats, so that won't take very long. Good. That's the one thing we will work on today. So the winter hats. Well, now that you live in sunny Florida and there's no need for winter hats, let's pull out all the winter hats and let's get rid of all the winter hats, okay? Let's get rid of that one item. So now you're not looking at socks, you're not looking at underwear, you're not looking at special occasion dresses, you're not looking at other things. You're looking for one item, and those are winter hats. So as you walk into the closet, you're going to spend 15 minutes and you're going to pull out all the winter hats because you kind of know where they are. And as you pull through them, you're going to see other things. Oh, well, I see bathrobes and I've got like 5 bathrobes and they were warm when I lived in Michigan, but now that I live in Florida, I don't need those either. Great. Make a mental note of the bathrobes. We'll do the bathrobes tomorrow. We're not going to do them today. We'll do them tomorrow. Today, we're dealing with winter hats. And the reason I say that is this. If you start pulling out the bathrobes, you're going to end up with a little bit of a pile. And that pile is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as the momentum builds. We're going to deal with one item, and that's the winter hats. So as you pull out the winter hats, you already decided you live in Florida. You don't need the winter hats anymore at all, ever. So now we're just going to get rid of those, and those are going to go in a bag. Those are going to be donated, and you're going to get rid of those right now. Once those are in a bag and they're in the trunk of your car and they're ready to be donated, the project is done for you for today. Next, you're done. Now when you go to bed tonight, your pajamas are in the place they're supposed to be. Your hanging clothes are in the place they're supposed to be for tomorrow, and you don't have a great big pile that you're kicking and shuffling around. Tomorrow, when you get up, you can walk in there and spend 15 minutes and pull out all those nice warm wintry bathrobes. And if you haven't gone to the donation center yet to drop off the hats, you can do a trip at the same time, and you can take all the bathrobes that you're going to take tomorrow. You see how that works? So instead of making this huge pile, just pick one item and just laser focus on that one item and remove that from your life. And it can be from your kitchen cupboards. It can be one particular set or style of mugs. It can be one particular set or style of bowls or serving spoons or whatever it is. Just pick one item and then get rid of that one item. You can always come back. There are lots of days in front of us. Every day that we do this, we can just pick one item. But what happens is you start getting in the habit then as you remove that one item, you start looking around at other things and going, well, I don't use this anymore either. I could actually get rid of all these cake decorating supplies because I haven't decorated a cake now in 14 years. So I don't need this stuff anymore. I'll get rid of that too. And so do that tomorrow. Don't do it today, right? We don't want to make a huge pile because the pile never goes away. I don't say never. There are a few people that do make it go away. But for the most part, we just get overwhelmed by it and it's exhausting. And then we end up just closing the door and like there's no room for us now in that room. We didn't create more space. We erased ourselves from the space that we had. And that's not cool. So there is a risk of the big pile, and I want you to be aware of it. All right, I hope this helps a little bit. If it does, give us a thumbs up. Ask your questions or add your answers in the comments below. This is a dialogue. It's a conversation. We want you to participate. And until we meet again, leave the world a cleaner place than when you found it.